Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and yes, I'm not alone in the studio.
Good morning, Ayuba. Good morning, Nigeria. I'm Dashin Husseina Usman. It is really good to be here, by the way, and TGIF.
I thought you weren't going to say that.
Yes, I had to help you up with that.
I was even expecting a query for not saying thank God it's Friday.
No, I've actually learned that, we're a team. So if you don't say it, I can, as well, just back you up.
Well, I mean, what else can we do other than thank God? It's Friday. It's the end of another week, and the second week of March.
Yes.
Yes.
Second week of March.
Exactly. Yes. So you could see how fast the year is already moving. It's the third month of the year, and the year is really moving fast, in my opinion.
The first 2 months were kind of really slow. February had never been that slow for me.
I think February was the slowest so far.
I think it's climate change, if you ask me.
Are you sure it's the climate change? Or maybe the fuel scarcity thing? A lot of Nigerians
lots of things
had to
happened
deal
in
with
February,
a lot. Yeah.
definitely.
Because especially, well, for me, it's about the fuel scarcity, the untold hardship that it brought upon many of us, Nigerians. So, well, it's one of those things. And we are looking forward to the end of that fuel scarcity because it's something that seemed to have lingered more than expected.
It's actually coming to an end. You go to fueling stations these days and then, you get fuel. I was able to get some in like 30 minutes. So it depends on where you go to. There are actually some motorists that prefer a specific filling station. So if it's not that station, they don't go anywhere else. And that's why, you have a lot of queues in some of these stations.
Yeah, I could understand that, but we just don't want to see the queues, Let it just be like it was before. You just drive into the filling station, maybe you're heading somewhere and then you just feel like, okay, let me top up my fuel, and then you're just driving, and then within, 3-5 minutes, you're done. So that's the kind of situation we want. Today on the program, we'll be looking at quite a lot. It looks like the crisis between Ukraine and Russia is escalating further. And now not just, entertainment and other businesses, even football is now being affected.
Everything, Ayuba, I tell you. Everything.
Chelsea fans, well, I feel for you. The Blues, what's happening?
Chelsea,
it looks
right?
like it looks like the world is crashing in on you guys, man, as a result of this sanction imposed by the United Kingdom, on Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich, and we'll be talking about that later on the program. And of course, we'll be talking about the rise in, ritual killings these days. People die anyhow, and it looks like life is losing its value here in Nigeria. And so we'll be talking about that, the desperation for
wealth.
Quick wealth.
Quick wealth.
Especially by young people.
Yes.
There's no shortcut, really, but we seem to try to find a shortcut to the whole thing. But look, it's not like technology that you just do this and then wealth is in front of you.
Exactly.
So I guess...
But some people actually seem to think it's magic, all you have to do is bring some parts and then, the Babalawo does his stuff and then you become rich immediately.
And now more than ever, I think more Nigerians need to be more careful with their security. Watch where you go, watch where you sit, watch who you talk to.
Into your life as well.
All of those details are very, very important. We'll be looking at a lot more on that later on the program. Of course, as always, we're bringing you the dailies on Daybreak.
Yes, indeed. But first of all, the news highlights. Bandits have killed 3 locals and abducted 2 women in an attack on Fumigi Street in Ungwangaladima, Goningora, Chikun local government area of Kaduna State. Chairman of Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Joseph Hayab, stated this in Kaduna on Thursday. He said the bandits raided the community in the early hours of Thursday, and he also said the bandits now kill their victims to put fear in the people.
All right, next one. Now, many passengers have feared death in multiple crashes along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The spokesperson of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Ogun Command, Florence Okpe, confirmed the incident on Thursday in a tease statement. Now, she said that the incident involved 2 vehicles and a fuel tanker, which went up in flames around the Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministry Prayer City outward section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Now, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is notorious for road crashes, as it had claimed at least 30 lives this year already. So if you do the breakdown, it looks like 10 every month, because this is March. So if you are talking about 30 lives, that's outrageous.
That's
really
a lot, really. All right, now moving on to the final highlights, talking about one of the discussions we will be having today in the studio. The United Kingdom has seized all assets of Chelsea FC owner Roman Abramovich. He is one of the 7 oligarchs hit with fresh sanctions, including assets freezes and travel bans over Russia invasion of Ukraine. Also affected are billionaires Igor Sechin and Oleg Deripaska, both seen as allies of Vladimir Putin. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said there can be no safe haven for those who have supported the invasion. Abramovich, 55, is alleged to have strong ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin, which he has denied. But the government believes Abramovich, who has an estimated net worth of £9.4 billion, is one of the few oligarchs from the 1990s to maintain prominence under Putin. Under the sanctions, Chelsea will operate as a club with a special charity license, and the proposed sale of the club by Abramovich has also been stopped, but the club will not be able to sell new tickets for games or even sign new players. And with that, we call it a wrap on the news highlights for today.
All right, now let's take a look at today in history. Now, we are talking about, as much as we talk about today, you know, we want to also do a throwback, some sort, to see what happened in history in our world on this day. Take a look.
All right, welcome back. Talking about today in history. Today is World Plumbing Day. Now, a lot of people would actually ask, you know, why is there a day to actually celebrate plumbing and all that? Now we're looking for water. There's no water in most states.
Right. So after all, without plumbers, we wouldn't be having that water.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's important. Imagine a house without water,
exactly.
Really. No shower, no washing of dishes, some other domestic chores that we do, and you know, quite a lot of things, washing of clothes,
laundry and all that, because they're all connected.
So imagine a world without water.
Exactly.
Really. So a plumber, I believe, is as important as water itself.
Exactly.
That's
and
what
a plumber, you know, for those who do not even have tanks in their houses, a plumber is responsible, you know, for connecting water from whatever reservoir to your houses. So, you know,
and oftentimes we really
important.
take them for granted, actually.
We do.
You know, imagine if you have a fault in your, you know,
or your pipe bursts or something, and water doesn't flow into your house.
Imagine what the house is going to look like. You know, everywhere is just going to be smelling and all that. So,
oh my God.
I think today they deserve that day to create that awareness about the job they do. They do very important work, and it's very important to encourage them. And
so what they do?
Develop, you know, to give them the opportunity to develop and, you know, technologically to find, you know, other ways of doing things.
You know, basically what they do today is, you know, they actually come together to learn, share knowledge, build connections, and actually find opportunities to collaborate and to improve the quality and access to fresh water, and safe sanitation.
Yeah,
Very,
sure.
very important.
That's very critical,
yes.
I believe.
And in 1892, the first public basketball game was actually played in Springfield, Massachusetts. You know, for basketball lovers, you know, they'd actually understand this. Imagine, you know, where basketball is, you know, right now. But, you know, imagine when it started. First public game.
1892, that's more than a century ago. And I think that's very remarkable and very significant to remember. So if you are a basketball lover, today we are telling you, in case you have not heard it before, today is the day that is, you know, being the 11th of
yes,
March is the day that the first public basketball game began back in Springfield, Massachusetts. Now, in 1897, as the meteorite enters the Earth's atmosphere and explodes over New Martinsville, West Virginia, the debris causes damage, but no human injuries are reported. So that's
it's like a stone coming in from space. You know, most times in movies, when that happens, you know, it tends to come with powers. A lot of people tend to come with superpowers.
As we see in movies, but this is not a movie. This is in real life. So yeah, this happened. You know, a meteorite enters the Earth atmosphere and explodes over New Martinsville, West Virginia. The debris causes damage, but no human injuries are reported. That was a very miraculous.
It must have been really scary for them, you know.
It's very miraculous. Thankfully, no one died. Back in 1918, also, Moscow becomes capital of revolutionary Russia. The Russia that we're talking about today all over the world, invading Ukraine. Well, some people say, well, it's not an invasion, really. It's a conflict, it's a war. So whichever way you want to put it, there is a crisis going on between Russia and Ukraine. So Moscow became the capital in 1918.
All right, in 1953, the first woman army doctor was actually commissioned, and that was a milestone for women as well in military. And then in 1972, OPEC threatens appropriate sanctions against companies that fail to comply with any action taken by a member country in accordance with its decisions. Now we can see the whole, you know, everything happening between Russia and OPEC, you know, right about now. And then, you know, U.S. boycotts Libyan crude oil as well in 1982. The same way most countries, you know, OPEC itself is boycotting, you know, Russian oil today.
At the moment, I mean, that's going to be a tough one, really, and that's going to definitely have its own implication on the economy of Europe, because, you know, Russia produces, you know, about 40% of oil and gas in Europe, and then 8% of global crude oil production. You can imagine that. That's a very strategic position to be there. Now, also, we'll be looking at, in 1988, British pound note ceases to be legal tender, replaced by £1 coin. So that happened. And then in 1995, you have President Nazarbayev disbands Kazakhstan parliament. Also, back in 2004, terrorists explode simultaneous bombs on Madrid's rail network, ripping through a commuter train and rocking 3 stations, killing 190 people. Quite a tragic one.
Yes, okay. Quickly, 2003, the International Criminal Court holds its inaugural session in The Hague. And, you know, in 2013, European Union bans the sale of cosmetics that have been tested on animals. And these are some of the events that happened today in history.
All right, now quickly, let's take a short breather. And then when we come back, we'll take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. If you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Now we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We have in the studio Nuruddin Abdullah, editor of 21st Century Chronicle, to give us perspectives on some of these stories. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you, Mr. Ibu.
All right. I'll begin with Daily Trust newspaper. The front page is covered up, with the story about APC crisis. You have, INEC saying to the Niger State governor, we are not aware of leadership change in APC. So that's also bringing another perspective to the whole conflict there. The writer says Bello denies receiving Buni's handover letter, and that's in reaction to a letter that was purportedly sent to the Niger State governor by Maimala Buni, notifying him of his, traveling, and then, handing over the wheel, of the party to him. And then you have also another writer saying APC will collapse if NEC fails to constitute convention committee, and that's according to APC Chieftain Marafa. There you see a breakdown of what, the facts, of what the Maimala Buni Convention Committee has been able to do during his tenure. Now, a lot of allegations about the fact that the chairman of the party has been, dilly-dallying, with the issues of the convention of the party, which is why he's been removed. And some group of the party felt it's important to set the record straight, and they decided to do, a breakdown of what, happened under the leadership of the Maimala Buni. You can take a look at that if you pick a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then, some other interesting stories. The column written by Jibrin Ibrahim talks about APC and party crisis in Nigeria. So yes, it's politics on the Daily Trust newspaper front page today.
All right, we'll move on to the Punch newspaper, and the lead here says 208 court cases threaten APC convention. Buni fights back. We have writers here that says 9 cases challenge interim panel, seek indefinite postponement. Buni Yahoo governors against APC's progress, says Akeredolu. Yobe governor wrote Bello to act while abroad for treatment, states letter. And we have a pictorial of PDP, rally that happened, a while back. And we have the story that says PDP plans peace panel over Edo crisis, eyes 2023 victory. And at the top of the page, you have a story on Russia-Ukraine invasion. And it says higher food, fuel prices loom in Nigeria. Others, says IMF, due to, this particular war going on. And then we have Jet A1. Airlines allege racketeering. NCAA may ground planes soon. Grounding planes would actually cause more hardship for Nigerians. We hope it doesn't come to that. FG seeks U.S. funding for gas supply to Europe amid Russia boycott. We have nominee kicks as Ebonyi court orders Umahi to retain seats. Okay, Oyo Shots Market roads for Balogun coronation as Olubadan today. Details of that on page 26. Arrested BRT driver raped me inside bus, says victim. Presents evidence. Wow, yet another victim has actually, come out with evidence. Okay, Oshun Babayemi vows to fight on as PDP recognizes Adeleke. And these are some of the stories that made it to the front page of the Punch newspaper.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning, having a similar story leading, the political story about the APC. It says Buni Malami Emefiele to confer with Buhari in the UK. At the top there, you would see 11 killed in Kaduna, Benue bandits gunmen raids, and then you see Umahi begs judge, gets order to stay. Excitement as Olubadan is installed. And then you see another one there, banks suspend ATM, POS transactions abroad. So these are some of the stories. Now, APC needs 21-day notice to change Buni, says INEC. So that's entirely another angle to the whole story. It declines invitation to parties' NEC meeting. Wow. Well, we'll get to see how all of that unfolds, but these are the stories on the front pages, on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
All right, I will take one more from the Guardian newspaper. And, we have a story that's the lead that says, why Southeast ranks low in VAT collection. And you can see pictures of some of the Southeast governors, Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Abia, and Ebonyi State. And right below that, Buni backers vow 10 million man welcome for the ex-CECPC chair on Monday. The details of that on page 3. We have Chelsea banned from offering new contracts, trading players following Abramovich's sanctions. And you can find that on the front page. Troops kill 121 Boko Haram fighters and bandits in Borno and Katsina. And then we have reactions as alleged killer of Super TV boss Chidinma emerges Miss Cell 2022. And on the footnote is the big story about party crisis of character. And these are the stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now let's get perspectives to this. We told you we have Nuruddin Abdullah, and he's here with us in the studio, the editor of 21st Century Chronicle, to give us perspectives. Thank you again for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Well, politics, it's all over the place on our papers this morning, specifically talking about the APC crisis. It's been from one revelation to another. Some letters emerged and went viral on social media. And then all of a sudden now we are hearing that INEC is saying it doesn't even recognize any party, leadership change within the APC. So this is leading us to another dimension, or another level, of the crisis.
You see, we thought that with the 26 March date scheduled for the National Convention, we thought that all the kata has been done with. But unfortunately, APC's conflict management mechanism is very poor. They always try, and I don't know why, to make mountains out of molehills. They don't tackle issues when they were emerging until they allow those issues to snowball into something else. Another thing, most of the characters in APC, despite their exposure, their experience, and their knowledge, always try to play to the gallery. That is what we experienced from Monday up till this morning. I was talking to you. People who have been taught in pole of power for almost 20 years are playing to the gallery. They behave like students activists. Do you understand? Issues that would have been simply tackled within a boardroom now has been allowed to filter into something else. Look at the confusion.
Well, it's all about the convention, isn't it? What the governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, says, about the Yahoo governors who have been conniving with Memala Buni to subvert the will of the APC members and all of that. So that's the root of it.
You see what I'm saying? A governor, he's over 70. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's describing his colleagues, elected governors, as Yahoo governors. You can see what APC is transforming itself into. Principally, it's not about the convention per se. It's about the presidential primaries. I've been mentioning to you that these people, most of these characters, have spent 7 years already now as governors, are now looking forward. They will lose power next year by this time. Their hands are over nose. We are ready. So what will they cling on to? That's it. Some are trying to go to the Senate. It's a retirement home. Some are trying to battle for the.
At least the way they say make it seem, though, not the
No.
based on what.
Can you, tell me anybody that is in Senate that is less than 50?
Yeah.
That is not X this, X that. Very few. So it's a.
So they've turned it to be, though.
Yeah, that is it.
But
So,
we hope to see more new faces, fresh faces in the Senate. Anyways, but that's just by the way.
So,
go ahead.
if you look at it, the issue of Buni, yes, they have, the governors have right, the APC governors have right to change their leadership, but they should do it maturely. Buni is an acting chairman of the party. And you know, this is his third extension. They have done it for 6 months, they extended it, then the last extension was even done ad infinitum until convention is done. An elected national chairman is in place. If you are not happy with what Buni is doing, if Buni, for instance, I'm not talking on behalf of Buni, no, he has his paid spokesperson to do this job for him. If they have issues with him, it's a simple thing, they can call him. This, and this. You know, when the news filtered, when we saw they took police taking over the APC secretariat, the Ballantyre Street, and
Looks more like
Buhari
a
sacked. Buhari sacked Buni. I said, no, Buhari cannot sack Buni. Buhari is not neck of APC.
But
Buni was given this mandate by APC neck. So it's simply
But in a democracy, with the kind of democracy that we run, it's like what the president says is final as leader of the party, you know.
What I'm saying here is this: Buni was sworn in. At least whatever it is the president bidding, but at least choreograph it to look democratic, even though it is not.
But does he have the right to sack him?
No, that is one. But the president can ask Buni to resign. He will have no option. If they have done that, they would have saved us all this drama. You know, we are battling fuel scarcity,
A lot of
power scarcity, even water scarcity. And now the APC is bringing it.
For some Chelsea fans are bothered actually about the sanctions.
Well, now about the security you were talking about, on that particular day. I read somewhere that the governor, the Niger State governor, said, it was because, of the inauguration of the state's chairman that, there was a lot of security and not, the purported coup or something.
Don't forget that before Buni even traveled for his medicals, before the inauguration, they handed over the certificate of return to the state executive chairman. That solved it. But what we are saying here is, and look at the contradiction. Governors on televisions telling us barefaced lies. I know politicians can lie. They don't bother whether their children, their grandchildren, their in-laws are watching them, you understand? But it's a simple matter that would have been resolved inside. Look at it now. Some elderly governors are calling their colleagues Yahoo. Can you imagine? An SAN. Umahi is saying that they recognize Buni.
Well, if you ask him, he'll tell you he's not the first to use the term Yahoo governors. He borrowed it.
No, that's why he said he borrowed it from somebody that is not a lawyer, that is not a senior advocate of Nigeria. And mark you, if an outsider can call you anything, but your colleague, so you believe that your colleagues are Yahoo. So what we are saying now is, look at them yesterday, their letters emerged, they were leaked, that Buni actually handed over. And now, like you mentioned, INEC they drag INEC into their confusion. Now INEC is saying that they don't recognize they are not aware about any change of leadership, and they need 21 days.
Well, there actually seems to be, I don't know, the whole controversy, there seems to be no end in sight. And, this is talking about the convention, coming up very, very soon as well. And we have Marafa saying that APC will collapse if INEC fails to constitute a convention committee.
There's another dimension to the problem. But the way I see it, it's not the convention per se. Like I said many times here, the convention, there is so much tension over the convention. Do you know why? Because you are trying to put your people that will serve as stepping stone for you to emerge during the APC primaries. Buni fundamentally has been accused of manipulating the party structure, getting allegation of getting a court order
To postpone to the next
to
convention.
postpone the March 26th convention, so that, you know, he will prolong his tenure to the primary elections time, so that, you know, he will emerge as vice president candidate of the one. So
But
all
to putting what at risk now, because a lot is at stake, you know, if he tries to do that. Because what may eventually happen is that even the APC may lose out in the whole game. We are talking about June 3rd, I mean, is it June 6th or June 3rd now? The date given by INEC for all political parties to have concluded their primaries. So that definitely has an implication on the APC, looking at the time frame that we have, isn't it?
Since APC was formed, they have not done any competitive primaries. What they will do is primaries by affirmation. Like the allegation against Buni, he is buying time so that, you know, all this horse trading would have been completed. A candidate emerged and he placed himself. Since he controls the party machinery, he should be able to present himself as the vice president. You understand? Likely there will be a southern. If you look at the zoning principle of the offices for the convention, apparently that the president candidate will emerge from the south. That is one. Those who are against Buni equally have ambitions, and they believe that they have been sidelined all this while. And that is why they booted him out, do a coup d'etat. And they came to the public.
Democratic coup d'etat.
Saying that the president, 18 governors have endorsed that coup d'etat. And Buni, he can only come back as governor of Yobe, not as APC chairman.
But if we consider that letter, that, you know, even though we cannot confirm or verify the authenticity of that letter, that says the Buni, you know, before traveling, you know, for that medical trip, handed over to the governor of Niger State. Would we still consider that as a coup?
And, you know, what transpired Monday, Tuesday gave credence to this fact that he indeed handed over, even though Bello is denying that he didn't see any handover letter. Because they asked him, you remember on Monday, why are you here? He said, no, I'm here on an acting capacity. Then later, the narration keep on changing. Kaduna State Governor spoke on channels. Yesterday, I overheard him speaking in Hausa. He's recognizing this letter, that indeed Buni handed over. So look at the confusion. They have every right to change Buni, but do it with semblance of democracy. The president has endorsed this. Now they are saying that Buni is in the UK.
Another issue to the dimension to the conflict is about the national secretary of that committee. You know, at the initial stage, when the whole story about, you know, the Niger State governor taking over leadership of the party came out, he said that there was nothing like that. He described it as fake, you know, and all of that. But we saw a turnaround later, you know, and he was even part of, you know, the, you know, officials that addressed the press, you know, when the governor of Niger State came to the secretariat there. So, and also there are some conflicts about his status right now.
If you look at the narrative, he said that there was no leadership change. What happened was that the chairman, acting chairman, has traveled and somebody is sitting in for him. That formed the basis of that meeting. After that meeting, then there were there was that press statement. Then after that meeting, there was a report that he has been sacked, that he's going with Buni, and that is as of yesterday, that is the stance of the anti-Buni governors, headed by Malam Nasir El-Rufai, commandeered by Akere Dello SN, the Yahoo governor advocate.
Accuser of the Yahoo Yahoos.
Yahoo boys will go to court, over this damaging something. So what we are saying here is simple. They would have called Buni. So the president can ask him to resign peacefully. They would have said all this now. Look at the confusion now they are bringing. They are confused and they want to confuse Nigerians. And we are already battling fuel scarcity, water scarcity, power scarcity.
Is it possible that, that actually happened and Buni refused to resign and this is the reason why?
I don't think he can do that. The Buni I know.
Okay.
And Mike, you look at it from even the general point of view. Does he deserve this treatment after what he did to the party? He brought 3 governors. Matole, Zamfara, Umahi, Ibonyi, Benayadi. Including even the fiercest critics of President Buhari, Fani Kayode. At least now Fani Kayode is not using his Facebook to attack the president and the APC. One mouth shut. And so many other things. So I don't think he deserves this.
But ideally, let's take a look at that letter that was said to have been written to hand over to the governor of Niger State. In what capacity was the Buni writing that letter to the Niger State governor? I mean, some have argued that shouldn't that handing over be to the national secretary of the party instead, of the Niger State governor?
No. If you look at that APC convention, extraordinary planning, whatever, CCEPC, the second in rank is governor of Niger. You understand? The chairman and the secretary cannot oversee the party, while the chairman has a deputy. It is as simple as that. You understand? If that letter is genuine and factual, then the APC actually have erred. And you can even see from the contradictions, this one will say this. Now the APC is sharply divided, the governors.
What about the national secretary resigning?
As far as the anti-Buni governors are concerned, the national secretary is equally out. That is it.
Okay. Now let's move on to more stories. Talking about Umahi. Yes. A whole lot of controversy after, the court's judgment that him and his deputy governor, are no longer, no longer hold those titles, owing to the fact that they defected to the APC.
So, since he joined the APC, he equally talks like his colleagues. He accused the judge, Justice Inyang Eko, of embarrassing the APC. So we don't know that maybe the judge is an APC member or the judiciary is an arm of APC that one of his members will embarrass. He apologized later.
Well, is there a basis even for his removal from office on that account, on the fact that he has defected, from, PDP to the APC?
Mr. Ayuba, he was removed by a court of competent jurisdiction. He wasn't removed by Dashin, Nuruddin, or Mr. Ayuba. He was removed by the court.
But the same court, if you take a look at what is happening in Zamfara State, for instance, there was a court ruling as well, on a similar matter, that suggested that there's nothing in the Constitution that says, defection is a crime or is against the law or something like that. And the court in Gusau also said that, it has no jurisdiction to even entertain, that conflict because it's neither a pre or post-election matter, referring to the tribunal as the only court that can, see over such matters. So when you look at those kind of cases also from a different court, which of course lawyers will argue that is a different court and whatever it decides is not binding on another court. But I mean, those are cases that we are seeing that have similarities. So what is the difference here?
I'm surprised that you are surprised that there is this conflict among the courts. Have you forgotten? Look at the PDP crisis. When Court of similar jurisdiction are dishing out conflicting orders. Look at when Secondus was being removed. He was suspended by High Court in Port Harcourt. His supporters went to Maiduguri at the peak of the Boko Haram and secured an order. From Maiduguri, some moved to Jigawa. About 6 courts issued conflicting orders. Some of the judges, I'm happy, have been reprimanded recently by the CJN. You understand? Because of this, you know, they have commercialized, sorry to use that word, these injunctions. You understand? But look at this thing. Let's get this thing clear. High Court in Gusau. Who went to that High Court in Gusau? The APC people in Zamfara State. But the PDP, represented by the deputy governor, the former deputy governor, came to Federal High Court here in Abuja. The same court, headed by Justice Eko. And he has fixed April 9, if I'm not mistaken. 8. For the continuation of the case. So I think what we should wait and see is, what I want people to understand here is this. Judges don't read newspapers to make judicial pronouncements. Facts presented before them. Not what is written on social media. And what if you? Yes, the lawyers are saying that, like mentioned in the Constitution, there are only 4 ways a governor can lose his seat: impeachment, death, resignation, or incapacitation. Understand? But now what remains now is for Umahi to go not to another court of coordinate jurisdiction, to a higher court.
Okay. All right, let's look at, let's leave politics. I mean, this issue will continue to unfold, and we'll keep a tab on that to just bring you all the updates as they occur. Now, let's take a look at this story about FG seeking U.S. funding for gas supply to Europe amid Russia boycott. So our federal government is, applying to the United States for funding for us to be able to supply gas to the U.S. This is amidst the whole Russia-Ukraine crisis and all of that. Do we have an advantage here?
So now you are saying that we have a product that we want to supply to another country, and we are begging the country to give us money. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what the caption is saying. At least that's what I'm not saying. The Punch is saying, in that story.
That actually, on a serious note, shows how the level of our unseriousness. You remember during the Operation Desert Storm, 1990, called the first Gulf War. It was during President Ibrahim Babangida. There are media reports at that time that Nigeria made a whopping sum of about $12 billion. Babangida has been accused of squandering that money up till tomorrow by some section of the media. But if you read what he said, that he used that money to build the federal capital. Nigeria got so much because of the Gulf War when Saddam invaded Kuwait in the 1990s. Iraq was an oil producer, a member of OPEC. Kuwait was equally a member of OPEC. You understand? So because of the war, they were no longer supplying. So their quota were shared among other nations, Nigeria inclusive. And we made so much money at that time because we were serious. And we had leaders that used their heads. Now there is war in Ukraine. Russia is one of the biggest suppliers of both gas and crude to Europe and other parts of the world. Now they can no longer do because of sanctions and what have you. It's an opportunity for Nigeria to key in and rake billions of dollars. But we cannot. Look at what yesterday I read. The Minister of State for petroleum resources. Timmy Silva was in Houston, Texas, for that oil and gas conference, annual conference. What was he saying? We cannot even meet our quota. The 1.92 billion barrel per day, we can't meet up. Now we are almost at 1.3 or thereabouts.
Can we even meet domestic demands right now?
Domestic, which domestic do you refine? You don't refine. You give that quota to NNPC to sell and import. You understand? So we can't even make money. Normally, we can't even meet up our OPEC quota. If we can meet up our OPEC quota with the crisis in Ukraine, what simply means we will ask OPEC, we have so much product, increase our quota so that we make so much money, like Nigeria made during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. But we cannot meet up. And why? The minister yesterday was saying that because some IOCs are exiting the country. He mentioned ExxonMobil, he mentioned the Shell. And mind you, crude exploration is a multi-billion-dollar business. Only the serious people go there. Why are they exiting? Why?
But isn't the PI Act, for instance, passed into law for such a time as this, so that Nigeria can be able to benefit more from some of these things, and to create that environment that will be favorable to some of these IOCs?
The PIA you suspended because of political consideration. You can't eat, you can't eat your cake and have it again. You have to do away with subsidy. Few number of Nigerians are enjoying the subsidy. But because it's an election year, you don't want your party to lose. You suspended the PIA implementation by 18 months.
Or is it because of election year or because of public outcry, on government?
We would have tolerated the public outcry if we are not conducting election this year. Hey, you can do whatever you want. We will impose curfew, send the police, send out whatever you. But we are in an election year.
So, but why was it not raised even before, this year being an election year?
That is why you should ask the ruling party. If we had, like you, the same people in this government, rose against subsidy removal in the past. So the government was so popular, 2015, 2016. He would have done this thing. You remember when he increased the fuel price? People, NLC came out shouting, but Nigerians chased them away from the streets. That was the best opportunity for him to do this. But unfortunately, because the economics around him were not seeing well, to use that word, he was not advised. Until now, when he was to do the right thing with the dwindling fortune of our economy, because look at the receipt we get. The way we are going, the money we share every month, FAC allocation, some states can go with zero, with nothing.
Still talking about fuel scarcity, how about the allegation that airlines are racketeering the Jet A1 and NCAA might soon ground, flights?
Airlines? No. They are victims. It's like, that's now, you being accused of hoarding foil. You are not a marketer. Okay, now, if airlines are now doing racketeering, maybe they are faking the scarcity of the Jet A1 foil. Then now, who is holding power so that Nigerians are having sleepless nights? With this heat wave, there is no power out of you.
Nothing.
So it's simply, some people are not doing what they should be doing. And there is no consequence. I mentioned this not now. This is not the first time. No consequence. You can do whatever you want, and there is no consequence.
Okay. All right, now let's take a breather now, and then when we come back, we'll just round up a review for today. Please stay with us. This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms and recover without special treatment. However, some will become seriously ill and require medical attention. The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you're near someone who has COVID-19 or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings. Maintain a safe distance from others at least 2 meters even if they don't appear to be sick. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay home if you feel unwell. Get vaccinated. Properly fitted masks can help prevent the spread of the virus from the person wearing the mask to others. Masks alone do not protect against COVID-19 and should be combined with physical distancing and hand hygiene. Protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. Follow advice provided by your local health authority. This message is brought to you by Trust TV.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And we have Nuruddin Abdullah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, giving us perspectives on the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Now, just before we round that up, we'll take a look at one more story about the, conflict, in Lagos State. Conflict here between the members of the NURTW in Lagos State. We've heard that the chairman of the Lagos Council of the NURTW, MC Oluomo, was suspended. And then now we are also seeing that the Lagos Council of the NURTW has decided to, quit, membership of the national body. I don't know how that is possible really, because when you have a national body, you have state chapters, and you are now, saying that you no longer belong to that national body. I don't know the implication of that, and how is that even possible in the first place?
It's very possible because, look beyond MC Oluomo. MC Oluomo is a political operator in Lagos State. Touching MC Oluomo is like touching Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and by extension, the governor Sanwo-Olu. So, and you know how powerful these trade unions are in the Southwest in particular. For you to become a governor, you have to seek the blessings of the NURTW leader in your state. And you remember if there's some like Ikiti, I remember Ondo, and there are even some clashes, factions. Because they are done, like you said, our democracy is being operated by these people, by the members of this NURTW. They are very powerful during elections. If they're not with you, are in trouble. So what is happening to MC Oluomo? MC Oluomo has been in the limelight as far back as 2015. You remember what happened during the APC local government local APC primaries, that he was even wounded on stage and he was flown to London. He's an NURTW state chairman, but he was flown to London. After he returned,
It looks like NURTW has so much money, isn't it?
Of course that is. That is after he returned. There was I think Lagos State University, LASU, was doing a convocation. There was serious controversy when MC Oluomu's name featured among the speakers that will speak at the convocation. Later, there was clarification that no, he was one of the graduates, or was it his daughter was graduated, or what have you. To show you that MC Oluomu is not like your Abuja and your RTW chairman. That is it. And not only that, he is now aspiring to be
president,
an
right?
Oba. No.
Well, even presidency, there was a rumor that he was vying for the position of presidency.
No, he couldn't have done that because of Tinubu. He's working for Tinubu. You know, he's now aspiring to be one of the paramount rulers in Lagos. He's a prince. All this.
So there are political dimensions to this,
Of
isn't
course. So MC Oluomu is not like a typical NURTW that you have at the back of your mind. It's a multi-millionaire one. So when the national, because of the 2023 presidential elections, now he has to be suspended. And what did he say? With one phone call, he said, Your Excellency, the NURTW, Maki, do you know why Lagos is important? It's the economic capital of Nigeria.
So, and the national body is accusing the Lagos chapter, the chairman in particular, MT Oluomo, of insubordination, and that, you know, on the other hand, the Lagos chapter, the chairman, is accusing the national body of interfering, you know, in, you know, Lagos chapter's activities and all of that.
You know, MC Oluomu is richer than almost, to be moderate, is richer than other southwest states, southeast, and south-south combined, because this is Lagos. So he controls the largest chunk of the revenue for the NURTW. So that is why the national leadership has to tread carefully with him. And look at what they did. Insubordination, he said yes, he was suspended, and what happened? They said that we are pulled out. Now they have to come back begging, or else they will lose all the revenue. And mind you, he has the support of the government. So they can create another union and chase away anything. And you are still in all the Lagos parks.
Okay. All right.
Already they're actually saying that to
Thank you
the state
so
government.
much.
So, well, we'll get to see how all of that
on our
unfolds.
side right now. Thank you so much.
most welcome,
Editor, 21st Century Chronicles, talking about Nuruddin Abdullah. Thank you so much for gracing us
most
with your
welcome.
presence. We'll take a quick breather, and when we return, it'll be time for the first discussion. To stay.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You are watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. Now, cases of ritual killings in the country are fast increasing, despite the fact that there is a new despite the fact that the year is new and in its third month, 2022 has already experienced the heartache and anguish that ritual killings are causing. Quite a number of cases we've seen. The most recent about a 22-year-old Bamishe in Lagos State that was kidnapped in a BRT bus and then eventually killed, as a result. Recently, the Minister of Information and Culture made some remarks, about these rising cases of ritual killings. And let's take a look at that.
By the government to launch a national campaign against the
Pretoria on the scourge of ritual killings yesterday Sunday. I implore the Daily Trust and indeed all media organizations to join the campaign against the scourge. For those who may still be in doubt, ritual killings have assumed a worrisome dimension in recent years. According to an NGO, Foundation for Partnership Initiatives in the Niger Delta, 150 women and girls were killed for ritual purposes between January 2018 and December 2021.
Well, there you have it. The Minister of Information and Culture raising concern about the rising of ritual killings. Now, we have in the studio Kwatai Iwasete Natu. She is a right advocate and also a politician, joining us to give us perspectives on this. Now, before we go into the issue of the ritual killing itself, first, let me get your reaction on the constitutional amendment ongoing as regards the gender bills that were thrown out by lawmakers before we continue.
I mean, the National Assembly have already admitted it was an error by saying they are going to reconsider 3 of the bills. I remember the last time I was here, I said I did not support the one they are not actually reconsidering. So I don't, the additional 111 seats for women in the National Assembly. I was not in support from inception. But of course, I support the indigenous shape and the citizenship, and then the 35% affirmative action for women. I support those 3 bills, and the National Assembly is reconsidering them. But the other one,
the House of Representatives.
Yeah, I don't support. I think it's excessive. There needs to be a balance. Our Nigerian, the cost center, which is the National Assembly, is already over bloated. I mean, they take a lot from our national budget. So if we are going to increase seats, then there should be a reduction. I don't think we should be adding more financial burden to a government that is probably already broke because we keep borrowing.
Yeah, sure.
So I have the economic concerns regards that. Not that I don't support, inclusion, but it should be logical considering the economics.
All right. Well, we will be looking at this issue of ritual killings, and you won't be the only person talking to us about that. We have Deni Kunu, a journalist and public affairs commentator, who is joining us virtually from Lagos. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you very much for the invite. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so maybe let's start with you. Coming from that end of Lagos. Lagos is one state where we've had some of these cases, more frequently. As a matter of fact, the last one happened in Lagos, where the young lady, Bamishe, who was said to have been, abducted in a BRT bus and eventually killed. So what's really going on, from that axis as regards these issues of ritual killings that we hear about every now and then?
Thank you very much. I think it's obvious the generation of our humanity and the lack of that touch of communal essence that makes us see the next person as part of us. Then I must also say emphatically that the evolution of culture and social realities really seems to be influencing this. Don't forget that between the 80s and maybe late 80s and early 90s, the access to global content, the access to global influence appears to be on the minimal side. But in this age and time, we have a lot of influencers, which of course have also by extension influenced the values and how people see life. And as a result of that, we found people moving in the direction of wanting to acquire things with the least effort made in terms of work or putting in certain value in it for money. That is one side of the conversation. Any culture that is dominant is also a culture that has economic advantage. So I have to say that popular culture, particularly the music and entertainment industry, access to internet and the fact that availability of data could make you see any content are obviously impacting pop culture because it's the dominant economy producing those avenues for such expressions. And for people who have access to these things, they definitely, one way or the other, will be influenced because there's economic advantage in having access to all of those things. As a result of that, the culture that is less dominant will have to be subservient in all ways to the influences of the dominant culture. Then the evolution of happens to be what also didn't consider and put measures in place so that people can understand the fiction of what the dominant culture provides. That's actually where the lacuna, as a result, many people are falling into out that in this age and time, people are more connected without knowing one another, without verifying the identities of one another, without actually knowing the reality of the other man, of the other end, of the other woman on the other end. And as a result of think that whatever it is they see from culture is what it is. So people from that have also been economically where they have actually do certain themselves simply because the situation is also worsened. So closely connected to that is lack of values for us to really see the next as one of us. Then do not also forget that this is Africa. Africa has certain peculiarities. This is not to say that Europe or Americas are not into deep things that are very negative. The reality of Africa and the diabolic realities of where we find ourselves also must be this. Then also, this is what we know. Elections are around the corner, and we know that according to the antecedents of past elections, certain things begin to happen when elections are closed. So it's a very sad reality that we live with in these times. And I think that we have to go to the roots of, first of all, identifying where it went wrong. People are
Okay.
having children out of relationships that nobody's really influencing positively. Children are leaving homes and getting disconnected from maybe parents or guardians. So nobody guides them. Those are the points where people begin to lose it. Then what about the social structures that we have? These days, it's not easy for you to even correct a child in school. You find out that the parents will take war to the teachers or those that are providing knowledge to that child. So you find out that the social system itself has broken down, and the various agents of guidance and counseling and knowledge and proper upbringing are no more engaging in that procedure or that process. So it gets to the
Okay,
point where
Adeni.
somebody that yes, please.
Okay, well, you said quite a lot, really, in one swipe. You've said quite a number, you've raised quite a number of points, but we'll get back to you to continue to look at some of those other issues. But we have also another guest in the studio, Natu. In your own opinion, what are the factors fueling this trend that we are seeing that is like never before?
Personally, I think the major one is the economic factor. A lot of people want to make a case against social media, that young people are being influenced by the lavish lifestyles that they see on social media. But, there are a lot of things on social media, too, that people consume. So why are they not being influenced by, let's say, the daily prayers or that you see in Nigeria? The popular one now is NSP, NSSPD. I don't join them, but I know that they have over maybe 400,000 people praying every morning. Why are they not influenced by those things? So social media
have taken the backlash for a lot of things. That is actually not true. The economic challenges, in Nigeria, they are obvious for everybody to see.
But those economic challenges have always been with us, isn't it?
No, not this bad. Not as bad. Let's say currently now, there's no light, there's fuel scarcity. There are just a number of too many pressure
There's always
points.
not been light.
No,
but the last time I checked, I mean,
look at the uneconomic.
electricity have always been epileptic in Nigeria.
The unemployment
fuel scarcity is always there.
No, the unemployment rate too for Nigerian youth. We keep on graduating youths, and we are not making spaces for them to graduate to, in terms of productive employment. And we keep on giving birth to children too. And we see, this population of, let's say, graduating youth and then the children we are giving birth to. But we don't see opportunities. We don't see additional opportunities. We don't see the industries that are springing up. All this fintech, you can run a multi-millionaire fintech with less than 10 staff. You don't need a lot of people in such industries. So personally, I think it's economic pressures. And, I don't know if he's a prof, he also spoke about the cultural background of being African and then the election season of people believing that these things lead to some sort of financial gains.
Now, this year alone, we have actually had some documented cases. First of all, the Sophia Kende case where 4 friends aged 18 to 20, chopped off her head in Ogun State. We also have the Timothy Adeniyi case where on February 1st, a suspected ritual killer was arrested by men of Amotekun, and he confessed that he was promised 30 million naira if he could produce or deliver human parts in Lagos. We also have the case of Afiz Olalere, a 32-year-old who is a suspected internet fraudster, and he confessed to killing his younger brother for ritual, rituals and everything. And then finally, we also have, aside Bamishe, we have Jennifer's case. She's a 20-year-old who was apprehended for, for killing, someone around Zaria Road, and her body was actually, the person's body was actually found in Jos, from University of Jos and everything. So now, aside all these things happening, the lawmakers have actually, come out to say that they're taking urgent steps to increase surveillance and to be able to apprehend every person or every perpetrator of ritual killings in Nigeria. How feasible and how possible is that?
Well, going by the Nigerian experience, we know that is just a reaction. I personally do not believe it's going to transcend into anything meaningful. And there are things you cannot regulate. You cannot regulate people from not engaging in crime. You can create deterrence, obviously. But how do you know who is going to, involve in ritual killings? These are things you cannot regulate. I feel it is economical. If people are gainfully employed, if people have options, they will not most likely be influenced by some of these fake money-making schemes, because there's no evidence that rituals work. There is no evidence from anywhere. And if somebody is offering you protection if somebody tells you you're going to kill the next person and you suddenly become a multi-millionaire, most of the people giving you this information are living in the bush somewhere or living in some tattered houses. So there is no evidence that if it did not work for them, what's the guarantee it will work for you? So these things do not work. It is a desperation, the economic desperation of I want to make money, I want to make money. And it is not because there is pressure from social media. It is because there are pressures even in the Nigerian system. You need to eat. You need to, clothe yourself. You need to pay house rent. There are so many things.
But if you tie that to, economic reasons, what do you say about some very rich people who are also engaged in these activities of rituals?
Well, we've not seen. We've not seen.
We hear a lot of stories, about very, very rich people who are actually, very involved with this. It may surprise you to know that maybe even people in government, are engaged in some of these things.
Your other guests
some time ago, we had
elections.
a documentary that showed a lot of things about, cultism in very, very high places. And sometimes they actually engage in this kind of activities. So how do you reconcile that if you say it's purely economical?
the problems we've been seeing, I say majorly, I did not say purely economical, majorly, there are other factors too. He spoke about the elections that are coming up, that during this season you see, you know, cases of ritual killings because people believe they need to fortify themselves or for whatever reasons. So there are other factors, but I'm talking about from the Nigerian youth perspective. It is purely economical.
Okay, now another angle to that is that, you know, on social media, for instance, the guest in Lagos raised something about people seeing things on social media. Specifically, if you go to, say, for instance, Instagram, you see a lot of people that you follow living a very flamboyant lifestyle that you do not really know anything about. You know, sometimes some of them are very hardworking, and yes, they were able to acquire some of the things that they've been able to acquire. You know, but some you don't know how they got it. You know, it could be some from Nigerian some fetish things and all of that. And so you take up that and absorb everything and think, oh, that's how my life should be, without taking into consideration, you know, what the person might have done to be able to, arrive at
just to add up to what he has said, you talked about Instagram. In fact, it is actually so bad that on TikTok right now, you see videos of cultists, you know, performing, you know, incantations and rituals and trying to show the world that, you know, you have to, you know, be one of them or do this before you're able to make this much money.
Some even make songs with that. So
honestly, there was the science student song that, you know, was banned by NBC, and then several other songs too. But most of people need to realize that some of the celebrities live fake life. I mean, it is obvious. It's not possible that you featured in 2 movies and then you are buying a Range Rover 2021. Most of these cars are rented. So we need to think critically. I've never been influenced by anybody from social media of my age group to think I should be driving a Range Rover. How much am I earning, for crying out loud? You get, so most of these cars are rented. If you go to Wuse now, you see, you know, this rented convoy thingy that, you know, they do. They will give you police, they'll give you escorts, they'll give you everything. You can rent 1 million, and then you go and other persons may think, oh, that's the lifestyle you're living. Meanwhile, you rented these things. So people need to understand, most people on social media are living fake lives, and some of this money is also crypto money. You know, there's a new money, the new crypto generation. A lot of people are making money from crypto. So when you see them being flamboyant, it is not from ritual. So I've never really seen any successful ritualist. I know they don't write it on their face, but I've not seen anybody that is a reference point for a successful ritualist. So I don't know.
All right, let's get Adeni to, you know, chip in on this. Now, how do we put a check, you know, on these practices, on this recent trend? Do we regulate the social media space? Should we come up with some law, you know, by the National Assembly to be able to put a check on this?
Well, let me go, if you, to the guest in the studio. It is absolutely for anybody to say that spiritual interventions for financial reward are not real. We need to understand the dynamics of the spiritual and the capacities of the world for you to come to that. I don't want to say that whatever I think she has said wrong, she is only operating within our worldview, which is very well permitted to analyze issues. It's completely naive for anybody to say that such things do not happen, even if there are consequences. Having said that, the next thing I just want us to understand is we need to do a proper reordering of a social-cultural context, our social-cultural categorizations, our social-cultural realities. One of the things we must come to terms with is the dominant culture have certain incentives. If you look at the fact that we come from a culture, at times we are restrained in terms of the things we say, in terms of the things we do, find out that the reality of social media gives you room for schools of expression, and with a thumb of the button, there is affirmation. I mentioned something earlier, and it's to do with the children we have, the children that we are guardians over. The point is, you cannot take away the family unit from people being there from drilling or actually drilling their parents. If you are to be able You must understand that whoever you produce the child with, no matter what misunderstanding exists, you should still have access to that child, because corporate nurturing is where the best children. If you also look at it, if you are working parents as well, what level of involvement in the daily activities of the child you're giving birth to? If a child lives with you, for instance, and your guardian, how much of
Okay.
involvement do you have in the child's life? So we have to start from this. Then we need to educate those that use social media. Many kids have food before they even have one,
Okay.
and many kids.
Uh, all right. All right. Well, we seem to have some kind of glitch with the network there, but you're making quite very important points there. Now, you've heard him, but I'm just concerned about the role of religious institutions, the society in general.
Yeah.
Parents, on one hand, you have situations where even parents are the ones encouraging children to acquire wealth that they do not even care about how, it comes about, and so on. So generally as a society, how can we reorient ourselves and change some of these values to understand that, look, life is not really all about,
Yeah.
Acquiring wealth?
I think firstly, there are things you can regulate, there are things you cannot regulate. Firstly, we can actually regulate the number of children people give birth to, considering their level of income. He was right when he said people are giving birth to children they cannot account for. And we see these things, let's say in northern Nigeria, because I'm from the north, these things manifest in the angle of terrorism or, children that end up into crimes, juvenile crimes, or very serious crimes like kidnappings or highway robbery. So that's another manifestation of, parents that gave birth to children they cannot account for or they cannot cater to. Maybe in the South now, you now have the issues of Yahoo and then ritual killings. So these things are manifesting in different, facets all over the country. But I don't know, really, if anybody has the exact answer, I'm sure they would have started implementing already. I don't like, over, what will I call it, academicizing things. We can say this, but is it applicable? So what I feel is applicable, you may say I'm drumming it too hard, but create jobs, create avenues for people to be gainfully engaged in the society.
Now,
as long as they don't have that, I believe these things will keep manifesting.
Now, I remember when the whole Okija Shrine incident happened, and then, the Bado boys, and then from there, there are lots of reports that, albinos are now targets, and, bald men and all that. Now, right now, we've actually seen, we've seen Nollywood being blamed for, ritual killings in Nigeria, saying, they're pushing the narrative. But isn't it also a fact that, in as much as, they actually, show these scenes, in movies, movie directors try to, bring out the moral story, about ritual killings, trying to, let people know that there's a disadvantage to these killings?
I mean, people will always look for a scapegoat. They've blamed Nollywood, they've blamed social media. That's why I don't want to fall into that trap of looking for, something to blame. I just want to look at what I feel is a reality.
The economic reality.
The economic reality. That's what I feel is the issue, really. Because if you blame Nollywood, for instance, they don't only make movies about, ritual killings. They make other inspirational movies. And why don't you also say, okay, Nigerian youths are taking inspirations from these things? There are a lot of, if you go to social media, even on TikTok, you see dancing videos, you see people being happy, you see, why are people not taking inspirations from, these other things? So I don't want to blame, the entertainment sector or space rather for these things. I think it's majorly economic, and I know there are some wealthy people too that are into this ritual thing. So I am not totally denying that maybe rituals in whatever what will I call it now, for whatever reason works. It can be for protection, it can be for making money, it can be for attracting favor. There are lots of things that people do rituals for, but I don't think ritual for making money works. Okay. I don't think it works.
All right, well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, it has to be short. We have to end it because of our time. Thank you for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We've been speaking with Kwataye Iwatsete Natu. She is a rights advocate and also a politician. Really, we wish you all the best in your political
Thank
pursuit.
You very much.
Yeah. All right, we'll also have a guest join us from Lagos, Adeni, joining us virtually, also giving us perspectives on what he thinks is happening. Really, thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye. All right, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, Daybreak continues. Please stay with us.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, yes. He phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think he will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Now, here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a 4th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms, and recover without special treatment. However, some will become seriously ill and require medical attention. The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you're near someone who has COVID-19 or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings. Maintain a safe distance from others at least 2 meters even if they don't appear to be sick. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay home if you feel unwell. Get vaccinated. Properly fitted masks can help prevent the spread of the virus from the person wearing the mask to others. Masks alone do not protect against COVID-19 and should be combined with physical distancing and hand hygiene. Protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. Follow advice provided by your local health authority. This message is brought to you by Trust TV.
Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich has been sanctioned by the UK government, meaning that he's now unable to sell the club. And Abramovich has had his assets frozen, a prohibition on transactions with UK individuals and businesses, a travel ban, and transport sanctions imposed on him. The sanctions are intended to stop the 55-year-old from making any money in the UK, and this includes from his club Chelsea as well. An application to the UK government can be made to sell Chelsea in the future as long as a Russian-Israeli billionaire Abramovich does not profit or make any money from the transactions. Now, to give us more perspective in the studio about this particular issue, we have with us in the studio a sports media consultant and media officer, national under-23 team, Sharif Abdullah, here in the studio. Good morning and thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure to have me.
All right. Also virtually, we have someone joining us all the way from Lagos, a sports journalist, Omodia Okulelegbe, to help us understand the implication of the UK's decision on Chelsea Football Club. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Okay, now, first of all, let's start with Okulelegbe. Now, with the freezing of Abramovich's assets, right, what are the implications on Chelsea and how does it affect the day-to-day operations of the club?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's a very, very difficult situation. Of course, Roman bought the club for 140 million in 2003, 2004. And the value of the club has risen to almost over 2 billion now. And you know that he is a billionaire. He's been helping the club. But now, to be at that level, Chelsea need all the financing they can get. So it will affect the day-to-day running. The UK sanctions now, meaning they can bring in new players or even extend the contracts of old players. They cannot sell they cannot sell tickets. They can't do merchandise. They can't sell jerseys. In fact, from reports now, all the shops around Stamford Bridge, Chelsea have been locked down. No sales, nothing. So there's no revenue generation for the club. So it definitely will affect the club in financial terms. Then in footballing terms, it can also affect the psychology of the players, knowing that the future is bleak. They don't know if they will continue to pay the monies or the salaries and all of that. So it's going to affect them psychologically. But for now, they are still winning. They're still in the top 3. But the future is really, really bleak for Chelsea right now.
Still talking about, the sale of Chelsea. Now, Abramovich actually stated that, even after the club is actually sold, that the money will be donated to victims of war in the Ukraine, right? Now, what effect will this new development have on Chelsea?
Well, if you remember, Roman had pushed for a peace talk, in Belarus, so that the invasion can end, but it didn't go really well. He's been pushing for a peace talk, knowing that he might lose all his assets in the UK. And let me take you back a little bit. Remember that this marriage between the Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich and the UK government has not been going well. It was strained a couple of months ago when he was refused entry into the UK. So it's not just starting now. This just broke the camel's back. It didn't just start now. So if it does that might cushion the effect a little bit. It's a billionaire. He wrote off all the debts of Chelsea, over 1 billion pounds. That's to tell you how magnanimous he can be. And the Chelsea Trust Fund was going to even go ahead to help, the immigrants from Ukraine that are coming in as refugees now into the UK, to help them settle in, give them some money, just for the UK government to see that, okay, as a club, as an entity, we're trying our best to see how we can support Ukraine in this whole quagmire. It's a messy situation. Even if it does that now, I don't think the financing of Chelsea will be the same again, because before you get an owner like Abramovich who spends money, recklessly for the club, it will take a long time. And this is why I said the future is really bleak for Chelsea. Even if they go ahead to even do some humanitarian, things for the Ukrainians, the sanctions still stands, and we don't know if the war ends, if the UK government will release these sanctions, because it's really terrible on Chelsea. They cannot even spend more than £20,000 on away trips. Imagine them going as far as the Champions League to other nations to play outside the UK. So it's really tough for Chelsea.
All right, well, let's get perspectives from Sheriff Abdallah. Now, wouldn't it have been a better decision to let Abramovich, sell off the club? Maybe if you look at the fact that, Chelsea has gone beyond just a football club. There are people all over the world that have personalized, the club Chelsea, and for them it's beyond football. There are all sorts of satisfaction that they get, from being a fan of Chelsea, and some of those, dimensions that we cannot really quantify.
Well, I think this decision is probably in the best interest of the club. Why am I saying this? Chelsea Football Club is one club that is a force to be reckoned with, not just in English, but European football by extension. Remember 2003-2004 season when Roman Abramovich, the Russian billionaire, acquired the club. I think Chelsea Football Club is the first club that broke the duopoly of Manchester United and Arsenal. Because prior to 2000, in the late 90s, early 2000, in the Premier League, it was all about Manchester United and Arsenal. So when the Russian billionaire took over Chelsea, I think it stopped bigger. I mean, as at then, 2 horse race to 3 horse race. That was before the Etihad takeover of the Middle East billionaires as well. So at the moment, I think the club is in a dire, difficult situation, and this will surely affect the club. A lot of players will be considering their futures. Remember, Chelsea are the current European Champions League Cup holders. They've also enjoyed a lot of success over almost 2 decades now when Roman Abramovich took over. So at the moment, the situation is getting from terribly bad to even worse for Chelsea. So probably they need someone like Roman Abramovich, because the Lagos guest rightly stated, Chelsea need another owner that is absolutely passionate and enthusiastic about football. Because you need to be passionate about football before you inject over £1 billion to sign players and run the club. And at the moment, sponsors will definitely stop coming. And a lot of world-class players will be considering their futures. probably been signed by other Chelsea rivals in England and other European clubs. So it's definitely a difficult situation for Chelsea Football Club at the moment. And I want to believe, if care is not taken, probably by the end of this season, a lot of players might leave Chelsea Football Club to other European giants.
All right, now, I mean, what other alternatives are there to this, whole conflict? Is there not just any other way to deal with this, rather than just freezing the whole account and imposing all those kind of sanctions on Abramovich?
Well, we all know that this is beyond football. This is something that has a lot to do with, politics, exactly. It's just beyond football. He has been accused by the UK government of, promoting what the Russian government is doing at the moment. That's invading Ukraine, the fact that he's among the few that are supporting the Russian government under the president, the current president, Vladimir Putin. So it's beyond football. And one thing is certain, you can hardly separate football from politics, because politicians run football. Politicians also are very passionate about football. So I think, like I earlier stated, probably the UK government is taking this decision in the best interest of the club. I don't know. But if there should be another takeover, then definitely that owner has to be absolutely passionate. It can't be anything less than what we've seen in the last 19 years when Roman Abramovich took over. I mean, they've enjoyed a lot of success. 21 trophies in the last 19 years when Roman took over, with 5 Premier League titles, 2 UEFA Champions League, 2 UEFA Europa League titles as the major high points of Roman Abramovich's era when he took over Chelsea.
Just before we call for the break now, I know Chelsea has actually been on a winning streak, these past, months. But then, why do they always find themselves in troubled waters?
Well, at the moment, this is a very difficult situation for them. I mean, because like I earlier stated, it's beyond football. This has to do with their owner. They've gotten themselves in really bad situation in, a couple of years.
But does politics and football go together?
Certainly. I stated this before. I mean, administrators run, okay, fine. Most of the federations, presidents across the globe, not just in Africa or Europe, across the globe, are politicians, because football is all-encompassing. Football accommodates the fans, politicians, administrators, and what have you. So you cannot separate politics from football. So at the moment, I think something has to be done for Chelsea Football Club, because the situation is absolutely terrible for the club.
All right, now let's hear what football enthusiasts on the streets have to say about some of these recent developments, specifically on the sanctions imposed on Roman Abramovich. Take a look.
Naturally, the ban will affect the football club. This is to show the level of seriousness of what is happening between Russia and the Ukraine. Ordinarily, sports is not involved when war or any other thing is happening. But we have seen this time that FIFA is involved, International Olympic Committee, IOC, is involved, UEFA is involved, and now the British government has come out heavily on Chelsea. I don't want to say on Abramovich, because Abramovich is an individual, though the financier. But this is a football club that has so many families, because every player there has who he is catering for. Has involved sports. Originally, the Russian country has been banned from every football activities. And I think the British government has taken it a step further by
another phase, like it might not be the Chelsea we know, because it might have to affect some players, because we understand that a Ghanaian investor, a business mogul, wants to buy over Chelsea. So, and if you begin to have different person come to take over Chelsea, so some players may have to go, so which will also affect them when it comes to field of play. And Chelsea now are still struggling, are still trying to see how they can remain in the top 4. So if this man have to go, a lot of things will change financially, emotionally, physically, psychologically. About the component of the club will change, and also the fans also will feel it, because they don't know who is the person that is coming over to buy the club. They don't know how the new owner is going to treat the club. Is it going to still remain the Chelsea they know? So a lot of things are going to change for Chelsea, and I just hope that it's going to be for good, not for bad, because.
All right, let's go back to our virtual guest, Omodia. Now, Omodia, now with, these sanctions, do you think this will be a distraction, for the team in the ongoing season?
It remains to be seen. They won last night against Norwich. The season, thank goodness, the season is just about wrapping up. We just have a couple of games to go now. But like my colleague said, they are the European champions, and they have a game next week against Lille. The second leg, they won the first leg 2-0. Now, psychologically, it will affect the players, but this professional club side, especially the club of Chelsea's magnitude, they have psychologists, among the training staff to, pep talk the players and tell them, like just yesterday after the eggheads at Chelsea had a meeting with the UK government, they had a session with the players and the coaching staff just before that game against Norwich, telling them, go ahead with everything on pitch, on the field. Make sure you're winning the games. Make sure you're getting all the points. We will take care of all the situations at the back end. So what does that mean? Telling them that, okay, you can still get to the top 3. You can still win the Champions League. You can still win the FA Cup. They are still in these competitions. So in as much that we will sit here and say it will affect them for sure, they are professional footballers, and they should know that, yes, things like this occur at times. So it's just to rally around themselves. I think Coach Thomas Tuchel now has a lot of work in his hands to pep talk the players, but they are very close to losing a lot of players now, especially the ones that have run out of contract at the end of the season, like the Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Christensen. Christensen was on the pitch yesterday. Well, like I said, professionally, they should be able to dust it off. But looking at the uncertainty is just terrible for Chelsea right now. It's terrible, but they can still cope. It's just about
okay, Omodia. Now,
10 weeks to the end of the season.
In your projection, in your own estimation, for how long do you think that Chelsea can hold forth, with these sanctions? For just how long do you think can they be able to, just stay in somewhere there, Hannigan, before things are resolved?
Well, it might not be for long, but the good news, the only escape route now for Chelsea is that we understand, according to reports, that there's a British tycoon that's ready to go ahead with a bid of over $2 billion to purchase the club. It's a property tycoon, and his name is Nick Candy. You must have seen the news. He's ready to take over Chelsea. If that happens, because part of the sanction is Abramovich cannot do business in the UK or with a citizen of the UK. That's the sanction. So if this man comes in with a consortium of some American owners, if he comes to buy the club, if the UK government agrees to the deal, then I think Chelsea will have a lifeline. Otherwise, until the invasion stops, the future is bleak for Chelsea.
And we do not know when that invasion is going to stop. Definitely, the UK government is at loss as well, isn't it? If you are to, look at the implication on the economy of UK, this is a major club in the UK, and definitely it impacts on their economy as well. So if you may quantify that, what kind of losses are we looking at?
Well, a huge one, if you ask me, a huge one. Because, football rakes in a lot for the UK government. I mean, one of, economic sectors that brings in a lot of money for the UK is not just the sports, but particularly football. Football is more like a religion in the UK. So it rakes in a lot for Chelsea and also for the English Premier League as well, the organisers and even the English FA. So at the moment, they're at loss. But of course, they believe they're doing the right thing, taking the right decision.
Especially if you look at the value chain of all the people, that benefit from
exactly.
This thing.
But we've seen a lot of takeovers in the UK in recent times. The Glazer family taking over Manchester United, also their cross-city rivals as well. That's Manchester City, owned by the Middle East billionaires as well. So, all they believe is, the market is widely open for billionaires to come and invest in the UK. And like my colleague rightly stated, Chelsea need a lifeline. But mark you, they need someone that is also absolutely passionate.
But even if that someone is there right
Mm.
now, from what we have, with the sanctions that are in place right now, the club cannot be sold. So even if the person is there that is capable and is passionate enough.
So that's exactly where the difficulties is coming. So probably, maybe, I don't know when, or it might be anytime soon, but probably Chelsea, might get that soft landing from the UK government.
Before we wrap up, now we know FIFA has been quick to, drop the hammer on governments that actually intervene. Do you think they would actually have the boldness to, ban the UK?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. At the moment, I don't think so, because this has to do with the club. Not the English FA.
Okay.
So that's where is one way or the other two separate parts.
Okay.
FIFA usually hit the hammer on a country or slam a ban on a country whenever there is infiltration one way or the other of decisions by that government on the FA. That's the FA running the football affairs of a particular country. So this is different from what we used to have, particularly in developing countries.
All right. Thank you so much, Abdullah Sharif, for joining us on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
Abdullah is a media officer, media consultant, national under-20 team. And thank you so much, Amodia Okulegbe, virtual guest, the sports journalist, for joining us as well.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
with that, we've come to the end of Daybreak today. Thank you so much for tuning in, our viewers. We'll be back again, next week on Daybreak, but tomorrow it's Daybreak Extra. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thank you.
And I am Ayuba Ilya. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube and also follow us across all social media platforms. We're right there, at the tip of your fingertip, really. So thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.